going on, you guys? Rasati out here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining into the Night Out podcast. It's been a minute, I know, but I have been trying my best to kind of wrap my head around everything that's going on this year. How do I get to this next place, this next level in my life, my business? How do I make sure that, I stay relevant? I'm trying to keep up with the game a little bit, right? But more than staying relevant, I'm trying to actually be ahead of things. I'm not trying to do everything that everyone else is doing. I'm trying to see what I can bring to the table that might be different. So it's easy, and flattery is the best form. Sorry. Copying is the best form of flattery, but at some point you got to branch out on your own and kind of take a chance and see if what you have to offer may be the next best thing or the next, new idea, new trend. I don't know. The point is, I'm not trying to be a trendsetter. I'm trying to just be myself and see if I can put my own spin on things a little bit, right? So with all that being said, I want to talk to you a little bit about news and what's real, what's not real. So much information on the internet these days. And I remember back in the day when we had to go through encyclopedias and, autobiographies, biographies, nonfiction, tons and tons of nonfiction to actually, get our research done, all of the bibliographies, quoting people properly, giving credit where credit is due so you don't plagiarize anything, but really doing the research, getting all the information possible and then presenting your case, right? I thought that was really, really important. I hated it. It was tedious, but I thought it was really important at the time because it gave me the skill set where I'm not going to just take anything at face value. I have the option and I know I'm allowed to go digging in search of the truth, which means if I get 10 versions of, one side of a story, I need to go look for the other side of the story so I can piece together what really happened. I don't know if you noticed this, right? No two people's perspectives are the same. And my brothers and I kind of learned this early on because there were plenty of times where we would huddle up together and kind of come up with a half-cocked story to convince my mom that we did something that we really didn't. And our lives would be perfect. I mean, to the T perfect. And on a normal day, we can agree on shit. So when the stories aligned, like really aligned, my mom could already tell something was off and we were, up to something. So it was at that point that we realized, okay, well, I'm going to see things one way and you're going to see things one way and my other brother's going to see things a third different way. But together you can piece together what actually happened and then it becomes believable. But right now, we don't do that as often. We go to Google for everything, or we go to one specific source, and if it's on there, if it's on Instagram, if it pops up on your Facebook feed, obviously it's the gospel truth. And it was funny because I just happened to help a friend of mine do a script read for a conversation between two people where one is definitely dependent on the internet for all of their facts and sources and ideas, and the other one is like, nah, I'm going to be off the grid, and I'm going to use my brain and my experiences to kind of help me figure out what's what. So the conversation was like over dinner, and the one person, the young lady, was like, how do you know if it's true if it's not on the internet? And the young man had a very poignant point, like a very, it's not really mind-blowing, it's a slap in the face, like, damn, duh, of course, yeah, obviously. So he was saying, well, you don't have the internet on right now that's recording us that we know of, and we're here in this moment together. I can physically see you, I can hear you, I can, reach out and touch you. Like, I can use my senses and prove to myself that this actual moment is happening in real life, right? It's actually happening in real time. There's no record of this moment anywhere on the internet. So obviously, because my senses work and I can physically prove, 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 senses that you are physically in front of me, I don't need the internet to reconfirm that. Like, how is that even possible? That's way too much information at that point. And the young lady, I mean, it's scripted, obviously, but the young lady was like, oh, shoot, yeah, that's true, too. So it was one of those duh moments. But look at how much we take for granted. When we hear word of an election, when we hear somebody's upset about something, the justice for Breonna Taylor, justice for Floyd, and all of the young people who lost their lives this year, what really is going on with COVID? Where did it actually start? We take everything at face value. They say it started in Wuhan. We believe it started in Wuhan. And then somebody will say, oh my gosh, but it was written about in this book back in 1981. So maybe it was planned this way. Oh yeah, okay, that's the gospel truth now. Whenever somebody says, oh, this is FDA approved and it's totally, safe and it's possible, we don't look for the studies. We don't look for the case studies. We don't look for the trials. We don't look for any of that proof. We don't look for proof. If it's there on the internet, that's proof enough. How many times have you had somebody say, oh my God, so-and-so passed away, can you believe it? And you go to post something only find out, oh, it was a scam, it was a hoax, it wasn't real. It was fake news. You understand? So how do we know what's real? Why do we not go digging for the truth anymore? Why do we not have responsible journalism? Because we're too busy looking for attention. We're too busy trying to sell copies of a magazine or sell copies of a story, sell advertising space because people are going to go watch it if it's tabloid news or whatever. What exactly is a tabloid? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Like all of these ideas, all of these perspectives, how do you know what's real? There's just entirely too much information on the internet now. Not that it's a bad thing, but why do we swallow everything hook, line, and sinker? Why do we not look for, okay, let me see if a couple other sources can back it up? And what makes a credible source? Where is, the kind of information that you could really depend on? What is Wikipedia and how come I can make one? Okay, so it's simple things like that. And I want people to remember that you are allowed to go digging for the truth. You're allowed to go question what's going on and why. It's not that you're being disrespectful. It's not that you're being a pain in the ass, but you're allowed to ask why and how. And are you sure this is really what's going on? How come once upon a time, the superfood was this and now the superfood is that? Like, did they change or something? Or have they always been superfoods? How come we're only now realizing that bananas, naturally occurring bananas, the seeds are actually way bigger than the ones that we consume now? So how long have we been eating GMO food? Like, what's really going on? How come we didn't know this? How come we thought that was normal and it's not? What is it about seedless grapes that, we still get nutrition from? Like, life on Earth is meant to procreate, right? So if you have a seedless grape, how does that plant perpetuate more? I don't know. How does it? I don't know. Can somebody tell me? How does that work? And if the world's seeds are stored in a grain, safe locker thing somewhere in case the end of the world actually happens, what kind of seeds are in there? And how do we know that we have naturally occurring seeds, not the ones that are grown to be resistant to pests or, I don't know. How do I know? How do I know? I don't know. A lot of times we don't tend to trust our senses. A lot of times we tend to mistrust people just because, there's a study that says, narcissistic people are this, this, and this. Well, guess what? All of us have narcissistic tendencies. All of us have that one person in our life that makes us narcissistic. We turn into a narcissistic asshole in front of certain people. I do too. Guaranteed. I know it. There was a moment in time, well, not a moment, it was a long while in my life where I was convinced that I was a self-made woman. I did all by myself. Didn't nobody help me. I built myself on my own, like by myself, for myself, all that shit. That's cool to an extent, but what does that also mean? The people who did stand by me, I'm discounting all of their help. The people that did not do for me, and as a result, I had to do for myself, I'm discounting the fact that they weren't there. Because that also helped me. It drove me to do the things that I had to do because no one was going to do them for me. Like, isn't it narcissistic to say that you're in a world full of billions of people and they did not affect you one way or another? Because that's bullshit. They do affect you. It could be good or bad, but either way, you're going to make a decision on how they affected you and what to do from there, right? So I'm wondering, like honest to God wondering, why do we not question? Why do we not fact check? People are real quick to say, oh, we're the fact checkers in a presidential debate. And people are real quick to say, well, I can't believe that so-and-so said this. Is it even true? Because you're attacking someone's life, you're attacking their character, you're attacking their children. I don't know. But at some point, how much of that is true? How much do we actually know? Yes, Trump looks like a goddamn clown. He sounds like the most insensitive bastard I've ever met in my life. But I also know he cares about money more than he cares about anything else. And he's good at getting money. He's good at making sure he gets bang for his buck. He gets the value that he really needs or whatever, right? So that means he's going to make sure people are talking about him, whether he's talking about the right stuff or the wrong stuff. But what's going on in his actual office, God knows. I have no idea. I think he understands who's running and who's pulling the strings of the country better than anybody else. But I wish he would come out his mouth and say that. But he can't risk outing those people. He can't risk falling out of favor with those people. So I guess he plays the game. But we don't know what the game is. Right? So how is it that we just swallow whatever they say? We just get carried away with the emotions of, that come with the stupid things that he says. How come we're not watching more carefully? How come we don't know who the Rockefellers are and what it means to have, centralized banks and how is it that you run a country and get tax breaks for people? How is it that you can have tax breaks for big companies, which means they're going to do more business, which means, the economy booms a little bit as well. Whereas, yes, you do want more employment for the regular Joe, but then how does that affect the economy as well? Right? So many questions, and I don't know the half of it. I don't understand economics all that well, but I do see what's going on. And as much as I don't like Trump, I gotta respect him because he's doing what he thinks is best based on the fact that he needs money. He needs money. Everything runs on money. Cash rules everything around me. And unfortunately, cash rules me a little bit too, and I'm not gonna lie about that. So as much as we get up in arms about certain things, and I'm not gonna lie, I was pissed at the debate. And I had an argument, well, not an argument, we were debating at the house as well while we were watching the debate. But there were fair points. He is a smart man. He's not, some gutter snipe that kind of climbed out of a bunker and suddenly decided to be president. He's been working the system for a long time. So he knows. He knows. And I forgot that for a while because I got carried away in the stupid things that he says. But I also realize now that he is so manipulative and so hip to the game that all of those things are done on purpose. The fact that he interrupted 27,000 times was to prove that Biden is a human. He's going to come out his mouth and say something stupid at some point. Like, shut up. He knows how to play people. And in business, if you want to be the shark that Trump is, you got to be able to play people. But I digress. The point being that, how do you know what's real? And if it's on the internet, does it make it real? I mean, let's be honest. I can make a Wikipedia page about myself right now and write all the most horrible things ever, like stuff that's never happened, but I can write it on there and people will say, oh my God, that's exactly, I knew it. She was, yep, bitch. But the fact that I can do that and it could be taken as gospel truth makes you think a little bit, right? So, at what point do you speak up or get brave enough to question the system, or question the things that you're being told? I remember when my mom would say, this is the only way to do something. And for a while, yeah, okay, I believe you. This is the only way to do something, so I do it the way you tell me to. Until my lazy ass brain tells me that, you know what, this is too much effort, there's got to be an easier way. And so I find another way. And then when I do that, she gets upset because I'm not doing it her way, and she feels like it's disrespect to her. But the end result is still the same. The way I wash dishes still works. The way I do laundry still works. The clothes are dry and clean and they smell good. And yeah, that's it. The fact that I don't iron all my clothes all the time, because in Singapore, if I just put my wrinkled shirt on and walk outside for 10 minutes, it's going to warm up and the wrinkles will disappear. I just know it. But at what point do you get brave enough to ask more questions? To check for yourself if this is something that would fit you, or if it's something that could be done a different way. Why is it so easy to say, nope, this is the way things have always been done, just suck it up and deal with it? Yeah, people have been having 9-to-5s forever. Right now, that doesn't work so well in this economy. So we need a side hustle all of a sudden. Guess what? COVID brought out all our little hustlers because they were so scared that they may lose their jobs. They decided they were going to do something to make sure that they never fall into that position ever again. Now, I've been there before. 10 years ago, I went through 2 different layoffs, both 4 years apart. And now it's almost unheard of to hear of somebody who's been with a company for more than 5 or 10 years. 5, really. Because the turnover rate is just like that. When people buy out other companies, they change all of management, and then suddenly management wants people who will comply, not people who've been there and know the system inside and out. They don't want people that will question them or give them the best possible strategy to do growth or progress. They want yes men, and that's not always helpful either. So at what point do you decide to question the system? If they say you have to write and rewrite your notes, if they're telling you the heuristics to your math problems and how you have to solve them and show proof every time, how does that prove that you actually know what you're talking about, other than the fact that you're doing like a blind leading the blind kind of experiment? They told me to write like this, so I write it like this. If I ask you to do reading comprehension and ask a bunch of, open-ended questions, I have to read those open-ended questions. So the teacher is trying to reduce the amount of work for themselves, give you MCQ instead, which is multiple choice questions. Then it's just a matter of a Scantron and going through and seeing if you got the right answer or not. But how do I know you know the material? There were so many times that I crammed for a test, got through the damn test. You asked me a week later what the hell I said. I have no idea. No freaking clue. because it wasn't so important and I didn't do it over a long span of time. I crammed it at the last minute, so it went into short-term memory and disappeared just as fast. But how do you know what works for you unless you're given the chance to test what works for you? Maybe rewriting your notes doesn't work. Maybe you need a partner to like talk about it, to discuss it, to kind of dissect it back and forth. Kids need to play to assimilate the information that they're learning. They don't know that. They just know they need to play. And at some point you realize, hey, they've been listening the whole time. Yeah, they absorbed all that material. They know what they're talking about. They just don't know how to answer the way you want them to answer. So back to information. What's real and what's not? At what point do you really go back and use your senses, your logic, right? Your resources, your ability to go do research. Go ask from multiple sources. Go ask all the perspectives in one situation. When I love law because, in a defense case or whatever, you're going to bring up all the witnesses, the character witnesses, the people who are affiliated, all of that. You're going to ask everyone for their opinion. Obviously, they've been prepped, but ideally, you get all sides of a conversation and you realize what the truth really is. That's the jury's job, right? The defense's job is to make sure that they present only the evidence that helps their case, obviously, but then you have an offense or the prosecution, which gives you the opposite. So between the two, you should be able to differentiate and figure it out, right? But in a court of law, you get both sides of the story, generally. When you're being taught history in a history class, you don't always get both sides of the story because the heroes are the ones who write the history books. So how do you know what's real? How do you figure it out for yourself? How do you stop yourself from just blindly swallowing whatever the internet feeds you? When you want to learn a new skill and you go to YouTube, do you just watch one video or do you watch a couple and say, all right, well, this looks like the general consensus on how to do something. Let's go with this. Honestly, I go with a couple of videos and I see what's common and see, okay, well, all right, this makes sense then. And this person teaches so well that I understand it, so I'm going to follow this specific person. I want you guys to question everything. I want you guys to really think about what it is that we consume on a daily basis. What's real? What's right? I don't know. But I would love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Please drop them in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. But in the meantime, think about it. Your five senses are probably the most accurate of all of the tools out there to judge what's real and what's not. And of course, you have your own biases because you have experience that kind of dictates what each thing means, but you can write down what each thing is, and that's still effective. That's still part of the process of an experiment, right? To write down the variations, the variance plus the constant, so you can tell what's going on, what's not. And then it's about a matter of trial and error to see what works and what doesn't. But at least you have that leeway to do the trial and error. And you're expected to do several different experiments in order to get to the truth. So why don't we use that in everyday life? I'd love for us to try at least. It's what I'm teaching my daughter to do. So like I said, I hope this makes sense and I will catch you again soon. But in the meantime, you guys, really consider where all your information comes from. I love you. I'll catch you again soon.